Hey, what's up, Unbroken Nation? Hope that you're doing well. Very excited to be back with you today. As you may have noticed over the course of the last couple of days, I've been releasing a new podcast. And I want to share something with you about my goal for my biggest goal for 2022 here in just a moment. But before I do, of course, I want to take a moment and just show some love to you, the Unbroken Nation, for leaving these amazing reviews. And so this review is titled A Reminder That You Aren't Alone from Outer Space 8922310. Yes, I read it all. A reminder that you're not alone. I'm so thankful that I discovered Michael and his podcast, informative, constructive, and healing, all in one place. Most survivors of trauma tend to feel alone. Michael reminds you that not only are you not alone, but you can heal from your trauma. I appreciate his vulnerability in sharing his stories. His transparency is incredibly reassuring. I highly recommend to anyone who has experienced deep trauma or loves someone who has. First off, thank you. I appreciate that. And of course, I appreciate all of you who leave the reviews. If you go to iTunes, Spotify, go hit that 5-star button, leave a review, hit the 1 star. If it's only 1 star, I want the truth. But either way, the more reviews you leave, and every single time that you do, it helps other people gain access to this information. So I want to dive into this. I know we, at the beginning of the year, typically talk about goals a lot. You go listen to last year's first episode of the year, we talked about goals. The year before that, goals. I'm still going to talk about goals because they matter so much. But the one thing I want to bring to light here, actually this year, as opposed to years past, is mine. I don't typically go deep into mine, but I was thinking about going into a deeper level of accountability. And I think that often goals are far too vague. Goals are far too nonchalant. They are not pointed. They are not in this way that you can lay it out in a concise way that is non negotiable. What do I mean by that? I think all too often when we set goals, we say things like, I want to help people. That's so vague. That what does that mean? Does that mean opening the door for somebody? Does that mean paying for somebody's coffee at the grocery store or the coffee shop? Or does that mean, going to a school and helping clean up trash? What does that mean? What does help people mean? When you are vague, you're setting yourself up for failure. Why? Because when we have vagary in the goals that we set, there's no marker to determine whether or not we're successful or failures, right? And so, look, you're going to fail at goals. It's going to happen, but you can use every single action that you take in moving towards those goals as information, as lessons, right? And what happens so often is we move towards goals without really having any indication of what it is that we're trying to accomplish. And so it's easy to let ourselves off the hook when we don't accomplish it. Think about that for a second. How many times in your life have you said, I'm going to go and do this thing? Think about this. When people say things to me where they're like, I want to write a book, this happens all the time. It's probably one of the number one requests I get. Hey, will you help me figure out how to write a book? Will you help me figure out how to make a podcast? Will you help me figure out how to do YouTube videos? I want to do what you're doing. I want to help people. I always ask them, well, how much time have you spent writing books? How much time have you spent making podcasts? How many hours have you spent learning how to make YouTube videos? Right. And look, it's not just that, it's also physical fitness, it's diet, it's everything. You could apply this to anything ever. And so many people go, well, I haven't, or I'm not there yet, or I'm going to. Let me tell you something incredibly important, something that will change your life, change my life. You can't going to, maybe, kinda, shoulda, or try to change your life. It doesn't work that way. You have to be decisive. You have to make a decision about your life because you are either going to or you are not going to. And what people get caught up in is the fear that it's not going to work. But think about this, whether you believe you can or you believe that you can't, you're right. We all know this. Like, your mindset around what you believe you're capable of doing is everything. And this is one of the things, Tom Bill, you taught me years ago that has held so true, that has helped me so much, that I want to share with you. When you value yourself for the effort that you put in, as opposed to valuing yourself for winning, you are going to be far better off. Because when you tie your identity to something like winning, what happens when you fail? you're destroyed. You see this in professional sports all the time. So you may know I love MMA. I love mixed martial arts. It's my favorite sport. I've been practicing Muay Thai for a long time, martial arts forever, right? You can always watch a fighter who doesn't know how to handle a loss and watch the way that the trajectory of their career changes forever. Because what happens is they are so tied to being a winner, to being a champion, to being the greatest of all time, that the second they have a fallback or a slip or a mistake or they lose, it crushes their identity, and they don't know how to be themselves anymore because they were never tied to the path. They were never tied to the effort. They were never tied to showing up every day, putting in the work, doing the hard things, rinse and repeating 365 days a year until they accomplish the mission and then move on to the next thing. And so what happens is in real life, we tie ourselves so often to crossing the finish line. We go, oh, I'm only going to be satisfied or happy when I have this thing. And what happens is we quit before we get that thing because we recognize how difficult it is, because we haven't yet tied ourselves to creating value in our own life and appreciation by the effort that we put in, as opposed to accomplishing the goal. Because I'll tell you this, I had this goal years ago of doing something really incredible in business that I was able to do. Within 10 minutes after finishing doing that thing that took me forever to get to, I was lost because I was like, oh, wait, what do I do now? I didn't have any other goals. I didn't have any other missions. I didn't have anything else that was next for me. And I was so tied. My identity was so tied that I went into this spiral. Like, I'll never forget it. I was like 27 years old. I had done this thing that I wanted to do. And suddenly I was looking at my life and I was like, I don't know what to do now. And I spiraled, right? Before I started to come back up. And this was around the time I really started to step into self-education and personal development. So there's this really interesting juxtaposition of time of growth when I started getting into learning as opposed to just trying to always accomplish things. So what does this all have to do with my goal? Well, I wanted to lay that framework out for you so I can help you understand something that I'm trying to do right now that is driving me. I made a decision at the beginning of this year that I'm going to release a new podcast every single day this year. Every single day. Now, let's get clear about something. That goal is still too vague. I want to release a podcast every single day. Great. What is the purpose? Why am I doing that? And how do I get there? So let me break this down for you a little bit more. If I was really going to lay out the goal in the most simplified and clear fashion, it is this. My goal is to have the #1 mental health podcast in America by the end of 2022 by releasing a new episode every single day that I record in conjunction with releasing guest episodes multiple times a week. Do you see how concise that is? I know exactly where I'm heading. I know why I'm heading there, and I know how I'm going to get there by my actions. Now, look, I recognize I may not actually be good enough yet to reach my goal, but every single day that I'm moving towards this with effort and action, ambition and passion, I know that I am doing the right thing. So at the end of 2022, if I come in as the #2 mental health podcast on planet Earth, I will not be destroyed in the same way that that championship fighter is. That championship fighter, they get destroyed. Oh man, they hit the L, it's over. It's game over, right? Because their identity is tied to that victory. My identity is tied to the effort of learning the skills every single day that will push me into the stratosphere on a long enough timeline. But that has only come with adapting a tremendous amount of patience and grace and discipline and accountability. And the reason that I'm telling you guys this in an episode is because I am going to use this as a precursor of accountability. I'm laying out my master plan for 2022 with you. Now, there's other things. I want to be in the best physical health of my life, right? And for me, that means I want to lose 15 pounds. I want my six pack back. Let me tell you this, that is purely a physical goal that I want for me because it makes me happy. It's a tremendous amount of hard work. I've done it before. I have a healthier way of doing it now than I did before. But that's important to me. I want to run a marathon. I just signed up for it. I'm super excited. Between now and then, I have to have a minor surgery so I can get myself in a position where I can successfully reach that goal, right? I want to also write my third and fourth book. I'm going to release 2 books in 2022. One will be another personal development book, and one will be a narrative fiction book that I'm writing for young adults. Because I thought to myself, what did I need when I was 14 years old? It's not this. Like, let's be honest, like this would never resonate with 14-year-old me, right? There's other things that I want to do in business as well. And I have a whole list of all of the goals that I want. Now, look, I'm going to tell you right now, because I know this as much as I know the sun will rise tomorrow. I'm not going to reach all those goals, but I'm going to do my damn best to make sure that it happens. There's going to be life. Things are going to happen. Things are going to happen that are going to interject in my path of reaching those goals, because that is the human experience. And that's why I do not tie myself to the reality that if I don't reach the goals, then I do not have value or worth in the world. I tie my reality, my self-belief, my self-esteem, who I am, my identity, to putting in the effort. And the reason I'm telling you guys this is because if you put in the effort, you will learn. Because you know what? Here's the truth. Maybe all of the goals that I have, they will not be accomplished this year. I look at last year, I accomplished the vast majority of them, but there were ones that I missed. And so I had to reflect on my year. I had to look at it. I said, what did I do wrong? Like, you have to be willing to be so nakedly honest with yourself about both your successes and your misguidances, the moments in time in which you made huge mistakes, where you didn't do the thing, where you didn't follow through, where you effectively hit the snooze button on your dreams. And in that, what I do is I take that information and I use it to learn. And I leverage the information of the things I've done to be successful to be able to mimic and model those into the future around other goals. And then I take the things that did not come to pass or did not work out in my favor or did not happen, and I go, where did I miss the mark? Because when you are super clear and unabashedly honest with yourself about this, you are going to find out so many amazing tools that are going to help you along the way to ultimately getting to where you want to go. You know, I think one of the things I always have to remember that's important for me is that I'm not doing most of this for me. Is there fulfillment in it for myself? Yes, of course there is. That's why you do anything. But ultimately, the reason that I do this is because it's in alignment. All of this, the podcast, the speaking, the coaches, and the programs, my physical health, like literally everything is tied to my ultimate goal. What is my ultimate goal? Some of you may know this, some of you may not. So I'll tell you, my ultimate goal is to end generational trauma through education and information in my lifetime. That is my goal. And so you can see how all the things I laid out about my 2022 goals also tie in to my overarching life mission, right? I'm so concise about that. And I recognize this too, coming back to this idea of not tying your identity to the success. It is improbable. It is unlikely. It is irrational. It is far-fetched. It's maybe even fucking irresponsible for me to think that I can end generational trauma in my lifetime through education and information. But that's not going to stop me. And that's the thing that you have to hold on to. You have to tie your effort to your identity to build your worth and who you are in the world. And so I hope this helps you understand how you really can start to step into goals. This is high level, guys. I could go for an hour on this, but I wanted to plant some seeds for you to start thinking today, right? Because there's going to be a day, and I promise you, and a lot of this is accountability for myself at a deeper level as well, because here's what's going to happen. On July 17th, I'm not going to want to do this. And I'm going to remember this conversation with you today. And I'm going to remember my promise to myself, and I'm going to remember being accountable, and I'm going to do it anyway, because that is how I have built myself, by doing the hard things that I didn't want to do. And if you want to build yourself, your self-esteem, your self-love, your self-belief, You're going to have to do things that in the moment you don't want to do that you know will make your life better. So, my friends, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for listening, Unbroken Nation. I have a great amount of appreciation for you. Please, of course, like, subscribe, comment, share, tell a friend. And until next time, my friends, be unbroken. I'll see you.